We are holding on the beginning of a Farbrengen. The Rebbe was Farbrengen on Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av, Tafshin Mem Beis, 1982. So we're going to start from Ois Beis, the third line in the Sicha. Ha'inyan hamuva b'sim mesechtes tainis b'mishnah shehusker leil b'maimer. The idea that's brought down at the conclusion of the tractate, the Masechta of Gemara of Tainis in the Mishnah, that was mentioned in the Maimer that the Rebbe said before the Sicha, which is Binyan Beis Hamikdash Yibone B'mheira V'yameinu. It mentions over there the building of the Beis Hamikdash that should be rebuilt speedily in our days. The idea that the Beis Hamikdash will be rebuilt immediately, very quickly, is something that expresses itself also in halacha. The Rebbe is very fond of bringing things that they have a halachic application, which means it's not just something in the spiritual realms, it's not just something according to Kabbalah or whatever, it's down to earth, practical in our world, that in our world we have this to such a degree that it even has halachic ramifications. As he says, concerning this idea that Beis Hamikdash will be speedily rebuilt, so he says, "Kin matzinu ba'halacha sheyeshnam kamin yonim shegazru shaloi la'asoisam bizman hagolus." We find in halacha there's a few things that the Chachamim decreed not to do them, even though Lemroi shal pi hadin mutra davar, even though from the letter of the law they would be permitted, lefi shebemeheira yibona hamikdash, because very soon, speedily, the Beis Hamikdash will be rebuilt. V'yoimru, and people will say, "Yishtaked mila achalnu chulu." Did we not eat last year such and such? There's different halachas of certain things that you have to wait for a certain carbon to be nikrav in the times. Let's say when the carbon oimer was brought in the Beis Hamikdash, so then a person could eat from the new crop of grain. And nowadays, since there's no Beis Hamikdash, you could do it immediately in the morning. But in the end, we wait until a later, the next day, because it will confuse the people that will see that last year we didn't wait, and this year we had to wait. So the point is that because the Beis Hamikdash is very soon going to be rebuilt, we make a decree that reflects this idea. Moving for this understood, Shatam the Meheira Yibona Hamikdash. The reason that speedily the Beis Hamikdash will become rebuilt, Hutam Chazak Ad Kedei Kach. It's such a strong reason. Shemishum Ze Goizrim Al Adam L'Mayit Ba'avodas HaBirurim Shaloi. For this reason, we make a decree on the person to decrease, to lessen his avoid of refining the sparks, v'loi lechel davar mesuyim, and not to eat a particular thing, instead of him eating this. And by eating this, he will elevate certain sparks that are waiting for him to elevate. We say no, because the Beis Hamikdash will very soon be rebuilt. Do not engage today in the avoid of birurim that you ordinarily would be allowed to engage in. Now, how do I know he's engaging in avodas habirurim? Maybe he's not going to be refining it. So the Rebbe says, since all Jews have an assumed kosher status, moving it's understood that when a Yid is involved in worldly matters, but in a way that he is proactive, so then he's refining the godly spark that's in this physical item. Through being involved in this in such a manner that all your actions are for the sake of heaven. In other words, by doing and engaging with the physical world and eating a physical thing for the sake of heaven, he is elevating the spark of holiness that's in that physical item. Even more so, if he uses this item for a mitzvah, so it's even how much more so that the godly spark becomes elevated. Valderach then moving in a Geulah Chila v'shtia hatun in brachel for now brachel acharei kasher eichel v'sheis Shiur. So too it's understood when it comes to eating and drinking that he makes a bracha prior to eating, he makes a bracha after the eating. When he eats the sufficient amount, how much it requires an after blessing. So you have so many positive things that a Yid is accomplishing with his doing, with his eating. Regardless of the great advantage in the avodah of refining the sparks, we decree upon the person that he should not eat something specific, that because not eating, not because, but through not eating, he is now lessening and decreasing his avodah of elevating and refining the sparks. And what trumps the avodah of refining the sparks? The reason for it is because speedily soon the Beis Hamikdash will be built. If this applies concerning not doing a particular activity that's connected with matters of this world, how much more so when we're speaking about a spiritual service. For example, tefillas keneged tmidim tiknun. The tefillas davening was established corresponding to the carbon tamid, the tamid shel shachar, tamid shbein arbayim. The morning davening corresponds to the morning tamid, the morning opening carbon of the Beis Hamikdash. The mincha davening corresponds to the closing carbon of the Beis Hamikdash, the tamid shel bein arbayim. Hareze bedugmas hakravas hakarbon. So therefore, the davening is as if he is offering a carbon. Chazal, and in the expression of Chazal, keilu hikriv chulu, that it's as if he brought a carbon when he learns about the Geulah. It's as if he brought the carbon Geulah. When he learns about the carbon shlamim, it's as if he brought a carbon shlamim. Even more so we find concerning the study of the laws of the Beis Hamikdash. It's not only that when Yidden study the laws of the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem considers it as if they are actually building the Beis Hamikdash, but through that they affect Shabinyan Beisi Eine Bottle, that the building of my home does not stand at rest. Like it's understood what the Medrash Tanchuma says, that Yechezkel Hanavi, when he was being told by Hashem all the different details about the third Beis Hamikdash, and he asked, what need is there for me to transmit to the Yidden all these laws? When we will build the Beis Hamikdash, I will tell them what they have to do. So Hashem told them that through them studying those halachas, so then Binyan Beisi is not bottle, that the building of my house is ongoing. So we see that there are things that are the whole time in a state of Beis Hamikdash like type of things. How much more so, especially a tefillah that its whole content is that the Beis Hamikdash should be built speedily in our days, like we have that in Rachman, Yirat Mofanecha, Shibon Beis Hamikdash Meheru Emeinu. And so to the tefillah that you shall make the sprout of David your servant quickly sprout, because we hope the entire day for your salvation. Even on Shabbos and Yom Tov, that then we do not say the tefillah of Samach David, ukimavur b'drash Razal Shabbos v'Yom Tov ein zman debias HaMashiach, like it's brought down that on Shabbos and Yom Tov is not a time of Mashiach's coming. Harigam, skip the brackets. Harigam oz aimrim b'tefillah Even on Shabbos or Yom Tov, where we do not say a Samach David, we still say in davening, let our eyes see your return to Tzion with compassion and mercy. Since this effect is affected in the way of mercy, that surely the matter is done immediately they all become redeemed, like the Rambam uses the expression. Essentially, what the Rebbe is saying over this whole page is that Mashiach's coming is not just something far away, but it's something that's occurring very, very soon. Ois Gimel. And last line on the page. Since the idea that speedily the Beis HaMikdash will be built, it comes after the great descent of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. V'chlolos in Zman HaGolus, the general great descent of the time of Golus, movement is understood. Beis HaMikdash that the Beis HaMikdash that will be built speedily in our days will be in the utmost highest state. B'yeser seis or b'yeser oz, with so much more power and so much more strength. This means to say, not only will the building of the future Beis HaMikdash be greater than the second Beis HaMikdash, which the second Beis HaMikdash, Chazal speak about 5 different things that was lacking. The fire didn't come down from heaven, the luchas weren't there, the aron wasn't there, and other things. The third Beis HaMikdash will not only be higher than the second Beis HaMikdash, it'll be greater even than the first Beis HaMikdash. Specifically and only, the third Beis HaMikdash will be an everlasting edifice. Migdash Adnai Kainu Yadach, the Migdash of Hashem, your hands prepared, Laloi Kol Shinuyim V'Yeridus, without any changes, without any descents, like it took place in the first and second. Why will there be no changes? Because the spirit of impurity I will remove from the earth. That's what it says by Yom HaShlishi, on the third day I will raise him up and we will live before him. This means only the third Beis HaMikdash will exist in a constant and everlasting way. That's and will never cease. The reason why the Beis HaMikdash will have this advantage, and B'chlal it will be greater than the first and second Beis HaMikdash. The feature Beis HaMikdash Shlishi ba la'achrei Geulah Yerida de Zman HaGolus shel achrei Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni. Since the third Beis HaMikdash is going to come after the great descent of the time of exile, after the destruction of the first and the second Beis HaMikdash, because of that, the building of the third Beis HaMikdash will be in the ultimate highest state. In the most powerful way, like we discussed in the Maimer prior to the Sicha. What we said earlier, that only through the great descent we come to the ultimate ascent. Mudgish b'yoser is even more emphasized. Kasher ba yom chamish aser b'av, when the 15th of Av, the day of the 15th of Av arrives, she'oz yeshna hisayrus miyuchedes b'mnegea l'inyan zeh. Then there's a special inspiration concerning this idea. Oidus chamish aser b'av v'meres teres emes kol echad ve'echad miYisrael. About the 15th of Av, the Torah of truth tells every single Jew, sheyeda, that every single Jew should know, shaloi hayu yom tovim liYisrael chamish aser b'avchu. There were no yom tovim for the Yidden like the 15th of Av. Hainu shetu ba'avu yom tov gadol yoser masher shara moedim shem b'tesva b'chodesh. The 15th of Av is a greater yom tov than other yom tovim that coincide with the 15th of the month. Chag Pesach b'tu b'Nisan, Chag Sukkot b'Tishrei. It's even greater than Pesach, which comes out on the 15th of Nisan, and Sukkot that comes out on the 15th of Tishrei. So it's in Meretz, this means the same. Regardless of the great advantage and quality of the 15th of Nisan, Chag HaPesach, Chag HaMatzos, Ma'achir Eseinu, Im Kol Ha'elim Shebedavar. It's a time of matzahs, it's a time of our freedom, with all the advantages and all the qualities and greatnesses of the matter. Until the ultimate level that the King of Kings Hashem revealed himself in his own glory and essence, and he redeemed them. This revelation repeats itself annually. Because we know that these days are not just remembered, but through remembering, they are happening again. Despite the great advantage of the 15th of Tishrei, which is the Yom Tov of Sukkot, Chag HaOsav, the Yom Tov of your gathering, when you gather your grain and your wine, that spiritually this is also a very idea the koyal klolos avoided the bir nitzutzi akdusha shebinyone oilom v'safet ganecha v'sareish v'itzarecha. It's referring to the general idea of refining the sparks of holiness that's in worldly matters, that you will gather your grain, your wine, your oil, va'ad l'mitzvah l'chikas dal midim, till we come on Sukkot to the mitzvah of taking the lulav and esrog, the four species, like it says, you shall take for you on the first day. The tradition has to do with the sphere of Keser. So despite all these great revelations and all these special things, despite all of these great advantages, the Torah of truth says, there were no Yom Tovim for Yidden like the 15th of Av. In other words, it's not an exaggeration, it's not a nice turn of phrase, it's a Torah of truth. The Torah of truth plays no games. If it says it, it means it. So the question is, how can that be? How can the 15th of Av be greater than the 15th of Nisan, which is Pesach, or the 15th of Tishrei, which is Sukkot? But Talmud, over the reason for this is, since the 15th of Av follows the great descent of exile, until the double and quadrupled darkness of the 9th of Av, built to the Tzuyim, that then occurred five untoward things. This was on top of the 5 negative things that occurred 3 weeks prior to that on the 17th of Tammuz. Only after the great descent, the ultimate descent, we come to the ultimate ascent. Therefore, the advantage of the 15th of Av, then the moon of the month of Av is full. That's what happens on the 15th of every month. But the moon being full on the 15th of the month of Av is more special than the fullness of the moon than any other month. So, because it was such a great descent that preceded it. The full moon of the month of Av is in a much higher way than the 15th of an ordinary month, like the advantage of light over darkness in general. To such a degree is the 15th, the fullness of the moon in the month of Av, so much more special that to such a degree we say there were no other Yom Tovim like it. As I said, this means to say at the 15th of Av transforms the negative things of Tisha B'Av, like the Chazal express it, Shetmuras ha'inyan, instead of the matter, the Allah Aryeh, B'mazel Aryeh, that the lion arose in the astrological sign of a lion. The lion is going on the Nebuchadnezzar, and he rose in the month of Av, which is during the constellation sign of Leo, V'hechriv es Ariel, and destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, which is called the Lion of Hashem, Ariel. and he explains all the Aryehs and Nebuchadnezzar, that the lion arose that's going on Nebuchadnezzar. The Chsiv Allah Aryeh Mesoivcha, it says that all the Aryeh Mesoivcha, that a lion rose from his bush, from its hiding place. Nifala Inyan, instead of that, came about the Yahweh Aryeh, B'mazel Aryeh, V'yivna Aryeh, that the lion is going to come instead in the mazel of the lion again, the month of Av, and he will rebuild Aryeh. All the Aryeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It arose a lion in this second, the positive thing. This is going on Hashem. The Chsiv concerning Hashem, it says, Aryeh Shoag Mila Yira. When a lion roars, who does not fear it? Which is referring to Hashem. Okay, Medrash, like the Medrash is very exact in its expression. It says that the lion of Nebuchadnezzar came and destroyed the Beis Hamikdash al menas, for the sake of Sheyavai Aryeh, so that the lion, which is Hashem, should come and build the Beis Hamikdash. Hainu shetach sakavana bin nabilti rotzi the all the Aryeh misufchayi, that the ultimate purpose of the untoward thing, that the lion came up from its bush, Yalmanav she'inyan zeyisap klatoiv, is for the sake and for the purpose. And that's the goal. That's the entire reason why there was a destruction. So it should become transformed to good. Until the ultimate good. What's that ultimate good? There were no Yom Tovim for the Yidden like the 15th of Av. This is also what's brought down the name of early ones. She'aryeh, lion, Hamazal D'Chodesh Av. It's the star sign of the month of Av, who Rosh Tevis, Elul, Rosh Hashanah, V'Yom Kippurim, Aleph, Reish, Yud. Ukimu b'shalosh, ha'ois Hey the Aryeh Koyal Hashan Rabbah. And the last letter, Hey, is going on Hashan Rabbah, meaning that all these positive Yom Tovim begins in the constellation of the lion of the month of Av. Close in the Aryeh, the Kedusha, Nifal Kvar b'Chodesh Av. The entire idea of the lion of holiness, Elul, Rishonim, Kippurim, and Shana Rabbah, is already affected in the month of Av, even before the Rosh Chodesh El, even before we even benched in the month of El. Like we spoke about earlier, in the Allah Aryeh Mesuvcha, that the lion rose from its place of hiding in B'Chodesh Av in the month of Av, while Menashe Yavi Aryeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Aryeh Shag Mila Yira. It's for the sake of, it's for the purpose that Aryeh should come. This is Hashem, that the lion roars, who doesn't fear? Hinei Oisei Tachlis Ha'ilu D'Chamish Aser Ba'av Yom Kippurim Mudgish b'yoyser al pi ha'mevur v'amar Chassidus she'oz meir begili b'chinas pnimis atik. In Mamar Chassidus it says that the common denominator between the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur is that the innermost level of Atik, which is the inner level of Keser, shines, which is a level, Keser is beyond the normal chain order of descent of godly revelations, and this is the innermost level of Keser. And we know that really primarily becomes revealed when Moshiach comes. It's similar to the revelations of Mashiach's time. So that's why the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur were Yom Tovim like no other Yom Tovim. This is also the connection of Yom Kippur and the 15th of Av to the idea of marriage, the Mishnah, like it's brought down and explained the Mishnah, Shebahen, that on Yom Kippur and Chamisha Asar B'Av, B'nois Yisrael, Jewish girls, skip the brackets, Yoitzois, they go out, V'choylois, and they dance B'kromim in the vineyards. Uma hoya oimris, and what would they say? Bachur sanoi nechorei mata boirloch. Bachur, raise up your eyes and say, and see, what are you choosing for yourself? Shezeu klolos inyan hanisuyim im kol sugya mishpachas b'Yisrael. That's the general idea of marriage, where all the different types of families amongst Yidden k'mevur ba'arucha be'braisa, that is explained at length in the elaboration on the Mishnah called the Braisa. It speaks about all the different types of families. There were rich girls and poor girls, and those that came from good lineage, those were beautiful girls, etc. Skip the brackets. Kimivur Midrash Razal shel asid lavi yeklosin nansim lakadosh baruch hu Knesset Yisrael. That in the future will be the general idea of marriage of Hashem with the Yidden. So therefore, Tu B'Av and Yom Kippur, which is the greatest Yom Tovim, is because they're about marriage, and marriage has to do with Moshiach's times, because that's the marriage of Hashem and the Jewish people. So that's why Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av are the greatest Yom Tovim. Like it's explained in Kama Amarim, Shebachar Sanai Necha, where it says, who is the Bachar that we're saying, raise up your eyes? It's referring to Hashem. Al derech my Razal beyam nidulem kebacher. It says when the Yidden saw Hashem on different occasions, they saw Hashem revealed to them in different images. Over the Yam Suf, when Hashem was revealing Himself to the Yidden and the Yam Suf, He saw them like a bacher. They saw Hashem as a bacher. Skip the parentheses. That is the request of Hashem's Kala, Knesset Yisrael, to Hashem. Bachur sana einecho re'ei. Bachur, raise up your eyes and see. Heinus means to say, in addition to the betrothal, to the first step of the marriage process that took place during the giving of the Torah after going out of Mitzrayim, Yegam and Anasuyim La'aseh shall also be the idea of marriage when Moshiach comes. V'zeu HaKesher shebein Inyan Anasuyim b'Yom Kippurim v'Tu B'Av im Hagiluim de La'aseh Lavi. That's the connection between the idea of marriage on Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av with the revelations of Mashiach's times. Ki Inyan Anasuyim Lamata Kosher, the idea of marriage down here below, is connected with Upayel as Inyan Anasuyim Lamaila, and it accomplishes the marriage above. When we get married down here below, this affects the marriage of Hashem with Klal Yisrael, Nisuya HaKadosh Baruch Hu Knesset Yisrael, the loss of Lavi, the marriage of Hashem with Yidden in the future when Mashiach comes. Now, we know there is two things that are no Yom Tovim like it. V'yiseirim, as the Rebbe says, even more so, Chamish Asar B'Av Naili Yosef Yom Kippurim, the 15th of Av is even greater Yom Kippur. What makes us say that's greater? Dini Afal Pishav Mishnah B'Dubar Oydus Ilud Chamish Asar B'Av Yom Kippurim B'Shaveh, though in the Mishnah over there in Masechtas Tainus, it speaks about how great the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur are, and we say the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur, there were no Yom Tovim like it. Afal became still a norm. The fact that we preface and we say first the 15th of Av, and then we say Yom Kippur, that's the way the Mishnah enumerates it. Which really, if anything, Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, shouldn't that be the first thing? So the very fact that he says first Chamish Asar B'Av, and then he says Yom Kippur, it seems to indicate mashma sheb'chamish asar ba'av yeshne ilu afil yom gav Yom Kippurim, that the 15th of Av is even greater Yom Kippur. Like it's spoken about many times, similar to what's explained in Tikkun Zohar. Yom Kippurim nikra Kippurim. The Yom Kippurim is called like Purim, Kippurim, like Purim. Hainu, this means to say, who kemoi Purim, it's only like Purim, b'chaf adimim belvad, only with a chaf that indicates it's similar to it. Meaning, when we say that A is like B, that means B is the real thing, and A is only like it, it's similar to it. Lefisha Purim, who naili yosim Purim, because Purim is even higher than Yom Kippur. Like the matter is expressed in the obligation of partying and joy on Purim, specifically in a manner of eating and drinking. A person is obligated to become tipsy on Purim until he can't differentiate between Mordechai and Haman. So just like we say that Yom Kippurim runs second to Purim, the same thing when it comes to Yom Kippur and the 15th of Av, We could say a similar thing concerning the advantage of the 15th of Av in comparison to Yom Kippurim. The fact that Yom Kippur is prohibited with eating and drinking, that shows that it has certain limitations. It can't really come into our physical world. As opposed to the 15th of Av, we could celebrate it with food and drink, which means it doesn't have the limitations. That means that it's so much more higher. And the Rebbe concludes, the lesson from this, in actuality, when we're found in the double and quadruple darkness of the time of exile, that our signs we did not see, meaning we did not see signs of Hashem, we did not see open revelations of Hashem, and we don't know what's going on. With all the matters that's connected with the darkness of Geulah, this is not the place to speak about painful matters. It's possible that a Yid will fall down spiritual, he will become depressed. By saying, what value does he have being in such a low state? So concerning this we tell him, there is a unique lesson that's derived from the 15th of Av. A person should not become affected by the darkness of exile, because its goal and purpose is the ascent and elevation of Moshiach's times. Even more so, the actual low situation that he sees, the actual darkness of the Geulah, is the reason that he should feel encouraged. The greater it is the descent of Geulah, this indicates that the ascent that will follow this descent will be much greater. Only after the great descent of the 9th of Av, we come to the ultimate ascent of the 15th of Av, in a greater way than the 15th of Nisan and the 15th of Tishrei, to the degree that the Chazal say, there were no Yom Tovim for the Yidden as the 15th of Av. Pisa move on, and according to this understood, Yeshman Nesinas Kayach Miyuchedes Malmaila Benegel Leklos Maaseinu Avseinu Bechal Akashur Laavois Vezirus Agiluim Delasulavi. On the 15th of Av, there's a special empowerment from above concerning our general actions and service in all that's connected with bringing about and speeding up the revelations of Mashiach's times. Since the revelation that shines on the 15th of Av is similar to the revelations of Mashiach's times, like we said before. Since it's so actually, even if we do not see the signs, we do not see this great power that we are given, the primary core thing, regardless of what we see, is to be found. The unique and special thing that a person needs to increase so much more powerfully and so much more strongly as a result of the inspiration and the empowerment of the 15th of Av, it's the general idea of loving our fellow Jew. Like the matter is expressed in the words of the Mishnah, concerning the special thing that took place during the 15th of Av, that showed on a powerful Avas Yisrael, like the Rebbe is going to explain. Klolos ha'inyan hanisuyim, the general idea of marriage, the Chamish Asar B'Av of the 15th of Av, Yoitzes V'Choyles B'Kramim, that the girls would go out and dance in the vineyards. And what would they say? Bachar son nechorei, Bachar, lift up your eyes and see. Kashur im inyan alavushim. It's connected with garments. Like it says, Kishute Kala, there's the adornments of a Kala. That's the idea of the jewelry of the Shechina above, reflects and corresponds to the jewelry and the adornments of a Kala down here below. Similar to this, Kli Lovan, the white garments that the girls would wear when they went out to call these Bachrim to look. It said in the 15th of Av, the Jewish girls would go out in borrowed white clothing. Even rich girls that could afford their own garments still went to the Hachnosas Kala Gemach to borrow dresses. Why? So not to embarrass those that don't have any of their own nice clothing. Like the Braise enumerates, Bas Melech, Sheels and Bas Kohen, a princess used to borrow from the Bas Kohen Gadol, and Bas Gan, the daughter of the Kohen Gadol, would borrow from the Vice Kohen Gadol, V'chol Yisrael, the daughter of the Vice Kohen Gadol, V'chol Yisrael, Shoylem Zem Zem. All the Jewish daughters would borrow one from another, Kedei Shlo Levayish Es Misha Ein Loi. So not to embarrass someone that didn't have. Moving, it's understood, Shetamze Kosher and Klolos in Davis Yisrael, that this reason why they used to borrow, not to embarrass anyone, is connected with the idea of loving another Jew. So this means to say, the effort put in, not to embarrass someone that doesn't possess their own, is to such a degree, because of this, all the Jewish girls borrowed from each other, even those that could afford it. Gam kasher eichos halavush hashol pchusam halavush shalom. Also, when the quality of the garment that was borrowed is less than her own. If you notice, it also goes down the level. The daughter of the king borrowed from the daughter of the Kohen Gadol. The daughter of the Kohen Gadol borrowed from the daughter of the vice Kohen. So in other words, they borrowed someone that very likely had a lesser garment than them. Or even if it wasn't necessarily a lesser garment, but it's not the same feeling that you have when it's your own garment as when it's something that you borrowed from another. Like we see with our own senses, the nature of people is the fact that we call a garment as something that gives me honor, it gives me respect. You know, you wear a garment out in the street and people respect you for the way you look. Primarily applies when a person is wearing his own clothes. But if he's renting something, he's borrowing something, as opposed to when it's talking about a garment that he borrows from another person, he doesn't really feel that type of respect. Yeah, others might have it, but in others' eyes, but not his own like self-respect. So what do we see from here? The self-sacrifice that these Jewish girls had for the sake of Ahavas Yisrael. With this we see the great emphasis about the idea of loving another Jew. That the effort put in not to embarrass someone that doesn't have of their own. It's even when this impacts myself. That because of this, that my quality of clothing is now limited and lessened. Therefore, the Jewish daughters went out in borrowed clothing, especially. Ukiyadua Geulah Ilid Avos Yisrael Shizel Klal Gadol B'Torah, as it's known the great advantage and quality of loving another Yid, that this is a great principle in the Torah. Hainu Loira Klal B'Torah Stam. It's not just an ordinary rule in the Torah. Ela Klal Gadol B'Torah. It's a great principle in the Torah. U'Kamayim Razal, the Chazal say, Allah Sani L'Chaver L'Savi, what's hateful upon you, you should not do to another. Shizel Klal Seinin Avos Yisrael. That's the general idea of loving another Yid. Zui Kol HaTorah Kula. Hillel told the potential ger that this, not to do to someone else what's hateful upon you, that's the entire Torah. The Ida and the rest of the Torah, Pirusha, who is the commentary on not doing to others what's hateful upon you. Zil Gemoir, and then go out and learn the rest of the Torah. Hainu Shar Divrei Torah, that the rest of the words of the Torah, the Ida, Hem Pirusha Inyan Avos Yisrael Pirushu, they are a commentary and an explanation of Avos Yisrael. Inyan Avos Yisrael Mahaven Isinas Koyach Lilmid Ulakayim as Shar Inyan Torah is Milgmoir, and loving another Jew creates an empowerment to study and fulfill the rest of the Torah. That's why he concluded with the words, go and study. Because the Rebbe is saying a very interesting pshat over here. Once we do Avos Yisrael, that empowers us for the rest of the Torah. Since Avos Yisrael is the general principle of the entire Torah, so when you get the general principle, it's much easier to get the details. You want to be able to master Torah, you want to be successful in Torah, you want to be able to fulfill Torah, practice Avos Yisrael. B'pashtus, simply put, Yehudi mishtadel b'kiyum mitzvahs v'aftarach kamoichem, when a person or Yid puts an effort in fulfilling the mitzvah of loving a fellow as yourself. Harei apula chitoiva sheba misbatas Geulah v'osei l'chol benu bas Yisrael sheyodim hagas. The greatest influence that over there could express his love for every Jewish son and Jewish daughter that he could reach, he kasher poyel aleim umekarvam l'chol inyan yadus Torah mitzvah, when he influences them and he brings them closer to all matters of Yiddishkeit, Torah and its mitzvahs. This means to say, she'inyan Avos Yisrael mevi lepula b'chol shar mitzvah. The idea of Avos Yisrael brings one to do what they're supposed to do in all the other mitzvahim. L'chol roish, first and foremost, mitzvah chinuch, the mitzvah of educating. After prefacing self-education, skip the parentheses, he is now involved also in educating another. And it's similar to what it says, whoever davens for his fellow, he is answered first. So by educating someone else, it helps his own self-education. From this we come also to the other general miftzayim. Though they're not a great principle like the mitzvah of Avos Yisrael, we come to Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzah, Tzedakah, buy a smallish farm, a home filled with Jewish books, Yavna v'Chachamel, the Rebbe connected with Yavna and Chachamim, Hadlakas Ner Shabbos K'Kodesh v'Yom Tov, kindling Shabbos and Yom Tov candles, Kashrus Achil v'Shtia, eating kosher, V'taras v'Mishpacha. This is the directive and the unique empowerment of the 15th of Av. It's understood for every single Jew simply. Even when we're talking about a 5-year-old that's studying Chumash. Call Yehudi every Yid, even a young child, knows. A few days ago was Tisha B'Av. He knows the story of that day of Tisha B'Av. That it occurred 5 untoward things on the 5th of Av. And like he said, in addition to another 5 negative things that occurred on the 17th of Tammuz, at the beginning of the 3 weeks, just you remember Tisha B'Av, that they conclude on the 9th of Av. And after all of this, we tell him, only a few days passed, like the 15th of Av, Nasi Yom Tov Gadol v'Yosher, it becomes a great Yom Tov. until there were no Yom Tovim for the Yidden like the 15th of Av. With this we see the power of the Yidden, the Torah mitzvahs, and the power of Torah mitzvahs. Through the avodah of Yidden in all matters of Torah mitzvahs. We reveal the ultimate ascent of the 15th of Av. That's the general idea of the revelations of Moshiach's times, are all symbolized and to be found in the 15th of Av. And all this is dependent on our actions and our service to nullify the idea of our sins. That's the only reason for the general idea of exile. Because of our sins we went into exile from our land. Though the idea of nullifying our sins is something that's accomplished little by little, it's in such a manner that he doesn't stop being involved in removing the sins even for one moment. Since the entire day we are hoping for your salvation, the entire day has to be our actions and service in this direction. Or every additional activity in matters of Torah and its mitzvahs, Geulah speeds up the future redemption. Like the Rambam rules, a person has to see himself and the entire world on a scale that's balanced. The entire world and him are half merits and half not. Also mitzvah achas, if he does one mitzvah whether that mitzvah involves action or it involves speech or it involves thought, so then he tilted the scale for himself and the entire world to the side of merit, and he caused for himself and for them, the entire world, a salvation until the ultimate and everlasting and the true salvation, a Geulah that there's no Geulah after it. All this is accomplished through the avodah of all the Yidden, with our youth and our elderly, and our sons and our daughters, the complete perfection of the nation, along with the perfection and completion of Torah and the mitzvahs. Including also the avodah of tshuva, that is the advantage of the 15th of Av over the 15th of Nisan, which Nisan has to do according to Chassidus, avodah tzaddikim, the avodah of tzaddikim. It's even higher, the 15th of Av, than the 15th of Tishrei, though the 15th of Tishrei also has to do with tshuva. Still in all, what is affected on the 15th of Av is even greater than that. The idea of the complete and the perfection of the nation, and the complete and perfection of the Torah. It's drawn down, becomes revealed below 10 handbreadths. Also, in the perfection and completion of the Holy Land, the land that constantly the eye of Hashem is in it from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. From this tripled strand, the completion and perfection of the nation, the completion, perfect Torah, and the completion land. We come to the third Beis Hamikdash, like it says in the Nevuah, on the third day he will raise us up and we will live before him, bayis nitzchi, an everlasting home. Like the conclusion of Tractate Tainus according to many versions. This is the building of the Beis Hamikdash, speedily in our days. Amen. Chazal say, it's greater the one that responds Amen than the one that actually makes the bracha that another responds Amen to. Lefisha Amen Moira Al Gbar V'Shleimus V'Kiyam B'Yofen Nitzchi, because Amen indicates the conclusion and the perfection of the matter in an everlasting way. So that's why we conclude B'Meher Amenu Amen. Below 10 handbreadths, speedily in our days, mamash.